thank you to my wonderful YouTube family for coming along on this raw ride. Your encouragement means everything, and I hope this version of the story touches you as deeply as it spilled out of me. The kitchen clock kept time like a pulse, each tick carving the quiet into thinner slices. I stood motionless, my phone shaking in my palm, its screen throwing back a message that felt like a knife. I can't do this anymore. I'm gone. Matt's words, blunt, absolute, scorched themselves into my thoughts. The smell of burnt toast hung in the air. Our untouched breakfast sat cold, abandoned when the fight blew up. I could still hear the echo of his voice from earlier, rough around the edges. Was it really a joke, Sarah? For 10 years I had lost myself in those warm brown eyes. Now they seemed distant, searching for something I swore I'd already given him. It had all begun so small, or at least I had convinced myself it had. The night before, we'd been sprawled on the sofa, wine sweating on the table, laughing over memories. The living room felt like home. Fairy lights, stretched cushions, a soft hush. I teased him about an old college haircut. He ribbed me about my addiction to sappy movies. Then, in a silly, wine-fueled moment, I said it. Honestly, Matt, I could have dated anyone back then. Remember that time I almost ran off with Jake in the cafe? I laughed, expecting the usual eye roll and a playful shove. Instead, his smile stuttered, his jaw clenching just so. A flicker passed across his face and disappeared. You're joking, right? He asked, quieter than I'd heard him. I nodded, giggling it off. Of course, you're stuck with me. But something in his look stayed with him. A question I didn't see coming until it was already too late. Morning brought a different air. The kitchen, our usual refuge of coffee and shared playlists, felt like a trench. Matt stood by the counter, shoulders rounded, staring at the whistling kettle. Sarah, he said without turning, why did you mention Jake last night? His voice was measured, but there was an edge to it like a taut wire. I laughed nervously, stirring sugar into my mug. It was a dumb joke, I told myself. I always ran my mouth. But his eyes weren't amused. They were combing for something beneath the surface. You brought him up before, he said. Jake keeps coming up. Why? My stomach lurched. Had I mentioned him more than I remembered? Jake had been a barista I'd once flirted with before Matt, and I got serious. A brief crush, nothing acted on. But Matt's tone made the memory feel criminal. I tried to answer honestly. He asked about late nights at work, about that weekend I'd spent at a conference, about why my phone was often face down. Each question was tiny, a sting that added to the last. I thought I had been straightforward. Still, every reply seemed to widen whatever invisible distance had opened between us. You're hiding something, he finally said, voice breaking. I wasn't, or at least I believed I wasn't. But doubt spread like cold water. Had I been too friendly with Jake? Had a harmless flirtation lodged itself into something heavier in Matt's mind? I pled with him. I love you, I told him, voice cracking. It was a stupid remark. He shook his head, tears in his eyes. I don't know what I know anymore, he whispered. Then he grabbed his keys and left. The door clicked, sounding like a final judgment. I waited. Hours melted into one another as I sat on the couch, watching the front door as if willing it to open. The fairy lights, once cozy, seemed to mock me now. I called and texted. My messages stacked up unanswered. Please come home. I'm sorry. I love you. Nothing. As the sun sank and the room went the color of bruises, his reply at last arrived. I can't do this anymore. I'm gone. Panic rose hot and fast. I scrolled through our history, hunting for what I had missed. There was a photo from that conference, the kind I'd sent without thinking. Me smiling in a bar, the background crowded. Jake was faint in the blur behind me. Had Matt seen that? Had he been living with that image, turning it over in his head for months? I ran to places he might be, his office, a friend's flat, the park where we walked. But the city felt empty, every street a dead end. The ordinary lines of daily life unraveled. Had I been blind to his small, uneasy looks? Or had he built a betrayal that never existed from one grain of doubt? Days made the house heavy. I found his wedding band on the counter, tucked behind a coffee maker like a thing I'd misplaced. Its weight in my hand was a sharp reminder of Val's suddenly fragile. I called his sister, his colleagues, anyone who might know where he'd gone, but either no one knew or no one would tell me. Then, a week later, an envelope arrived. His handwriting cut across the front, uneven, shaky. I tore it open with hope that immediately soured. Sarah, it read, I loved you completely, but I can't live forever wondering if I was enough. You didn't cheat, I know that now, but you let me believe you might have, and that's a betrayal I can't forgive. I saw Jake in that bar photo. I saw the way you were smiling. I carried that image with me, and it destroyed me. I'm sorry. Don't look for me. The letter slipped and floated down. I sank beside it. The truth was brutal and small. My careless joke had planted a seed that grew into a ravine. He hadn't left because of an affair. He left because I'd allowed him to suspect one. The wound wasn't simply one person's. It belonged to both of us, to words left unexamined, to truths we assumed the other understood. The fairy lights were unplugged now. Their bulbs were cold. The house felt like an empty shell of what we'd made together. Somewhere, Matt carried a hurt I had never intended to give, and I was left to live with the fact that a laugh, thoughtless, fleeting, had reshaped our lives.